Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys from Africa, you know we love the Big C tribe, and Big C, we love them in Canada, but there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free, in the home of the brave and the beautiful. March 26, 2018, Big C, how's it going for you good old boys?
Well, Charlton, just loving it down here. Everything is great, and, I'm still resonating from over the weekend with all the young students and parents marching, showing solidarity against violence in America, and I mean that's the wave of our future. We got to look. There's more millennials now in America than there are baby boomers.
Yeah.
And they are the ones who are going to make a change in every aspect of our lives, whether it's politics, whether it's sports, whether it's religion. They are the new face of America.
Yeah.
And they're not going to back down to the old status quo.
No, they're not.
I'm so proud because I'm a parent and to have these young people voicing themselves, not just saying we have to accept. And so adults are going to have to really pay attention because they're the most sociable part of America we've ever seen, Charlton. They were born with electronics in their hands and in their face.
Yeah.
And so they stay in contact constantly. And we're going to see a wave of impact from what they do. I looked at our president who deserted Washington, D.C. because he heard over 500,000 people were going to come in and march against what he won't vote on.
Yeah.
Because after he sit there in the White House and everybody saw this note in his hand, on what to say because he couldn't speak profoundly to these people.
Yeah.
He has not said anything against reducing any type of gun legislation in America.
I know.
They've called him on that.
Yeah.
And they're going to call the rest of the politicians on that, Charlton.
Well, Big C, that's the great thing we love about young people. They're not just going to shut up and dribble. I'm so proud of them. I do want to say today's segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. You can drive a car or you can drive a Cadillac. I love the fact that there were 800,000 people. That's a lot of people, Big C. 800,000 people. And I'm just going to assume that none of them were paid off by the NRA. I'm going to assume that many of them care about sports. I'm going to assume that many of them also care about their politics. And it was young people that they told us by efforts. I'm so proud of Rosa Parks, what she did over 50 years ago. Because Rosa Parks did it when you could be murdered as an African American by society, by law enforcement. We know that's a fact. You can Google the Kerner Commission. Rosa Parks did it when she did not have major media following who she was and what she was doing. Rosa Parks did it when she wasn't having these town halls and major newspapers writing about her. But what she did back in the day emboldened young people, from sports fans to your average high school kid. Big C, people are not dumb anymore because of the Google factor. Your thoughts on that, Big C?
Well, Charlton, when you speak about Rosa Parks, you have to think about all of the kids in the South back in the 60s who did the sit-ins at the lunch counters.
Yeah.
Who wanted to cross the racial divide to integrate schools, to go to where they would have the same opportunity as the opposite culture in getting an education, have the same good material, the same quality classrooms, Charlton. These marches were led by young people in the South. When you talked about integration, when you talked about social injustice that was occurring so much in those days, and the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
We all think of Dr. King, but if you think about it, John Lewis was by his side in every major march that he was on.
Yep.
John Lewis was a young man at that time, and he was a student. And he rallied so many young people to get out and vote, to be part of this cause. And that's what we're seeing now. Matter of fact, John Lewis spoke and led the rally in the Atlanta area.
Oh, yeah.
And here's a man that 50 years ago, over 50 years ago, was doing the same thing as these young people are doing Charlton.
Wow.
So when we think about how people don't let go, and they also had in Washington the granddaughter of the late Dr. Martin Luther King speak.
I saw that.
Which was so powerful.
Yeah.
But John Lewis, being a member of the civil rights movement for equality for Americans, not just one people, but for Americans. And that's what all of these kids are. When you looked across the crowd, you saw a multicultural umbrella of people, Charlton.
Yes.
It wasn't about black, it wasn't about white, it wasn't about Hispanic, it wasn't about Asian. It wasn't about any race, Charlton. It was about young people.
Yep.
And as adults, we have to pay more attention to them. Because I always sit back and when I talk to my kids, I say, I wish I was as smart as you.
Oh, yeah.
Because they look at me now and it's like, Dad, you don't, I'm like, I really don't. Because you were born with all this stuff in front of you, and I made sure that you had everything that you could have in front of you.
Yeah.
Because I wanted you to be more knowledgeable than me. And so when I look at these young people, I am so inspired by them, Charlton.
Yep.
Because we had athletes out there walking, young athletes from high school, from college. They were out there participating. It wasn't just somebody sitting in a classroom. It encumbered everybody. And that's what's so important. It's just like when you look at a sporting event, you look at a stadium.
Yep.
You have that type of cross, reference that you can look at as far as people, as far as age.
Yep.
You see fathers and sons, you see mothers and daughters at these games, you see aunts and uncles, grandparents. That's what you saw on this march.
Yeah.
And we even had families that were in the original major gun shooting in schools from 19 years ago in Columbine. Parents showed up from that, Charlton. Students who were at the school showed up from that.
That's amazing.
Because, as we say, enough is enough.
Yeah.
And, I've talked with a lot of people in the past couple of weeks, and they said, well, you can't take away the gun rights. And they said, it's the bad people who commit the crimes with the guns.
Yep.
I said, okay, you say it's the bad people, but you don't say that they're bad until after they've committed the crime.
After the fact.
Before they committed the crime, you said they were sane, good people.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, once they commit these heinous crimes of terrorism here in America, you say, well, maybe he was mentally ill. But the day before, he was fine.
Yeah.
They had a shooting just the other day, Charlton. Guy takes his, daughter to school, comes back, goes on a shooting rampage.
Wow, that's crazy.
So who said he's insane? He was sane enough to take his daughter to school
Yeah.
so she wouldn't be in harm's way.
Yeah.
So, people need to stop playing that mental race card because that's being racist.
Yeah.
Calling people mental. It's not. They calculate what they're going to do. There's no mentally ill person that anybody's ever seen going on a shooting rampage.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Big C. And I'm so proud of our young people. And I'm proud of especially some of the owners of the NBA, especially just over the weekend. The Sacramento Kings played the Boston Celtics. Now, I know there's still a lot of ignorant people in our society, and their brain can only talk about sports. They don't have they haven't had enough education to talk about anything other than that. And some of them have jobs on the radio, and they say, I'm only going to talk about the score. Well, the whole community ignored that one particular person. There's several of them, but for the most part, they're the voice of NBA organizations. They call a lot of their games, and they have their own radio shows. But they're so ignorant that the whole community has told them to shut up, because you have players from the Boston Celtics, which is a very educated region of the United States, with Harvard as well as UMass and many other institutions. And you have the Sacramento Kings out here near Berkeley, Stanford, Sacramento State, Davis, Pacific. There's a lot of people who are more than just athletes. And they put on the display, it was a PSA orchestrated by their owner, who's an Indian man, Vivek Ranadive, who put it on to have them talk about unity and what the Sacramento Kings can do, because he's smart enough to know, unlike some of the guys that have radio programs, that sports will galvanize our young people, Big C, that people of all colors made this PSA. They were black and white. They weren't just someone who was a person of color. And so I'm proud of our white brethren for having that same mantra that Rosa Parks had back in the day where they're talking about what can keep our kids safe. Is that what you're also seeing down in the South, Big C, where it all started, Big C? Your thoughts?
Yes, you are, Charles. You're seeing this complete unity of cultures. But, to have a professional league owner step to the forefront and speak about the improprieties that are in America, because he's had to deal with them even though he's a very wealthy man.
Yeah.
He's had to deal with the racism and the separatism in America. So he understands the plight of being oppressed.
Yep.
And these athletes speaking out, and they continuously speak out. But they shouldn't have to be the spokespersons for America. It should be the politicians.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We put all the emphasis on athletes saying they have to go out and they have to be the community leaders. They have to be the spokespersons. They have to donate the money. They have to, do whatever you need to be involved in the community.
Exactly.
But we don't say that about politicians, the people we elect to do those jobs, to set budgets, to fund schools, to set up programs. We don't say that about the elected officials.
Nope.
We call upon the politicians. And I'm proud of the Sacramento Kings owner just as much as I'm disappointed in the Houston Texans owner.
Yeah.
You think about Bob McNair, the owner for the Houston Texans, who's saying he still will repeat his stand on the players' protest.
Yeah.
That he will not allow it from his team because he owns them and they work for him, they're his slaves. And not only that, he's backing Jerry Richards, the disgraced owner of the
Carolina Panthers?
Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
The guy who's had all this sexual misconduct and racism that he even talked about personally in a Sports Illustrated article. Jerry Richardson is saying, well, I hope it's not true, and I bagged Bob McNair.
Wow.
Bob McNair admitted that he's done wrong.
Yeah.
And that he needs to step aside.
Yeah.
But Jerry Richardson being an advocate said, hey, I don't believe what he said.
Wow.
I'm backing him.
Yeah.
And I don't want him to go anywhere. So whatever sexual misconduct or improprieties that he did in owning a team and racial comments, that's okay. This is what we do all the time, good old boys that are rich and untouchable.
Yeah.
So, this is the divide that we have in this country, is that when you have ignorant owners like a Bob McNair, I mean, he's rich, but it doesn't mean he's intelligent.
Exactly.
That's what people have to understand.
Yeah.
And when you're devoid of empathy towards American citizens, think about that. You're devoid of empathy towards American citizens, whether they're athletes or whether they're just a layman person on the street.
Yeah.
To him, they don't matter.
That's the thing that I'm glad you brought that up. I was watching some of the events over the weekend, and I'm just so proud. I'm so proud of our young people. So when people tell them shut up and dribble, shut up and just go to school, stay in your lane, this is the greatest country in the world. Not that we treat each other like we are, but our Constitution gives us all the right to be treated equal and to pursue happiness with liberty and justice for all. And sometimes, even myself, I gotta say I'm guilty sometimes. As much as I advocate for people who are sometimes picked on or the ones who are voiceless, I want to advocate for them. But I sometimes forget the power of our young people. And you brought it up earlier, Big C, when you said how your children have access to this social media and computers and Google and all these things that we don't know much about, our generation. But the fact that they don't just talk about it, they actually went out in March to bring attention, just like Rosa Parks back in the day. And I'm so proud that they realized you don't have to be bought by a lobbyist to go out and have a stance like Rubio and a lot of them good old boys that won't say anything. And we know President Trump, he's bought by the lobbyists. $30 million buys a lot of favor. You think $130,000 works, Big C? Try giving someone $30 million. That buys a lot more favor. But for our younger generation, and they play sports and they do all of the things that we want them to do, but the fact that they're willing to put their time and their lives out there to say we matter too, and you better believe that when it's time to vote, we know who you are. And I hope they shout out everybody that's taking money from the NRA and all the people that turn their back on these young people and how they want to stay healthy and feel safe when they go to school. Big C, that make any sense?
Well, Charles, that's the American right. People want to talk about the Second Second Amendment law in America, in America.
Yeah.
But everybody who preaches the Second Amendment right has never read it, so they don't understand what it says.
Yeah.
Or what its intent was. Its intent was not for semi-automatic rifles.
Yeah.
It never was.
Yeah.
It wasn't even for semi-automatic handguns. It was never that. That was not the intent of it. So this amendment that gets misconstrued all the time, and people want to hide behind it. So, no, this is my Second Amendment right.
Yeah.
To bear arms.
Yeah.
Okay, to bear an arm, and you think about it. When that amendment was written, you had the right to own a weapon that you could load one round in 3 times in 1 minute.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
That's what it was written for, so people need to go back and read it. To be a part of the militia, you had to be able to load 3 rounds in a musket within 1 minute.
Yeah.
So if you went back to that law saying that you had a revolver that only held 1 round, you had a semi-automatic pistol that only held 1 round, and you had to put a round in it each time you used it.
Yep.
Then the laws would adjust. But you keep getting exceptional with this stuff and adding more and more options for these people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, the Supreme Court could make a decision on that. They
Oh, yeah.
honestly could, and change that rule. The president could pass a bill to change that rule, but we know he's owned by the NRA.
Yeah, when you owe someone $30 million, you gotta get the money back, or you gotta do what they say, Big C. And we know that's a fact. And whether it's president or any other person, I mean, everybody has a price. I know there are people who say, I would never do that. Even if we look at the thing with Stormy Weathers and all the things that, Stormy Daniels and all the things that she's been, caught up in, and president and all of his shenanigans. Everybody has a price. I mean, everybody has a price, Big C.
What negative tweet did he come out with? He normally does that. He didn't send a tweet out, fake news, CNN, fake Stormy Daniels story. He did not tweet anything negative about that story.
Well, I hear she has an audio.
Even with the little bit of conscience he had, he was sitting there eating crow because he's like, okay, this stuff is coming out now,
Yeah.
more and more.
Yeah.
And then what people need to understand, it was an ethics violation rule in campaign contribution, because when his attorney paid on his behalf, he paid $127,500 more than what's legally allowed as a campaign contribution from an individual.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
So that $130,000 was $127,500 in excess.
Yeah.
And they did not report it as his campaign contribution.
Wow.
It was not reported. So that was an illegal act right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you're used to suing and paying off people, you got to understand, when you're dealing in the world of politics, there's a whole different set of rules.
Oh, yeah.
And so both of them committed a law violation when they did that.
Yep.
So it's well beyond just the Stormy Daniels part.
Yeah.
This is illegal funds.
Well, when you deal with that type of behavior, and you can threaten everybody, for women who have been dealing with assault and the bully mentality, that happens in schools too, where there's a lot of schools trying to fight bullying, Big C. It's not just the president. POTUS can do it and write a check and maybe it goes away. And for a lot of people, it went away. And I just want to contrast what's happening with Stormy Daniels and all the other women who've been dealing with assault. And I hope that the women who are dealing with it, that don't have a voice, that they can become emboldened to at least call 911. I know a lot of times we hear about assault that happens in the workplace and women feeling pressure, like the Weinstein guy down in Hollywood. They feel pressure. So they may go to their company ombudsman or their manager, but oftentimes those managers, they work within that same political pressure. But if you call 911, they have to record the conversation. Okay, that's a fact. That keeps a lot of women safe too. So what happens with the president or not, it's just for every young girl to understand you do have power, even if it's just your cell phone. Even just your cell phone can keep you safe, because that's something that at least law enforcement gets right away. Big C, I do want to touch on one more thing that I thought was very important and very promising to this young generation of people, especially here in California. California is known as a state where people are very progressive, and as you say, about the people out here in the West, that everything goes in California. You good old boys kind of frown on that. But in reality, I find that there are a lot of people in California that are encouraging just what we saw in Washington, D.C. over the weekend. A lot of young people, whether they're part of like the AAU basketball programs or other programs that are out here, they go out and they tell people, let's march, let's protest, let's make our voices known. And I'm so proud of that. And I just want to get your thoughts one more time before we touch on some sports things. I see a direct correlation to being an athlete. As an athlete, you got to compete for what you want. Nobody's giving you anything. There's always somebody trying to take your job. And so you got to be vocal. You got to play hard. You got to do better. And these young people, of course, they love supporting their young high school teams, various sports, boys and girls. But they don't stop there, Big C. And I want to contribute that to a lot of the conscientious people that have that Muhammad Ali consciousness, where you're more than just an athlete. And you notice that march in Washington, they were black and white, and they're saying we want to stay alive. We want to feel safe going to schools. We want to be safe in our neighborhoods. And the fact that a young 22-year-old African-American man was shot 22 times by law enforcement, that means there's a problem. And that people are speaking out about that. I'm just so proud, Big C, and I hope it doesn't stop. And whether politicians pay attention or not, if they don't, hopefully they'll be voted out of office, Big C. The ones that pay attention, maybe they will start making change with the stroke of their pen, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's the main thing. When you look at this march, there were so many 16, 17, and 18-year-olds that were involved in these marches.
Yeah.
Okay? And these kids also have a way to influence their parents' thinking.
Yep.
Because they're so, important to their parents. And parents want to feel that they do everything that they can to protect their children.
Yep.
That's our job as a parent, is that we do all that we can to protect our children and make sure that they have an opportunity for a great life.
Yes.
And I think so many parents now, regardless of their political stance, are starting to understand that there's nothing more important than your child. And I'll always go back to the Larry Nassar trial and sentence.
Yeah.
The Olympic doctor from
Michigan State, yeah.
When the last girl that spoke said to Nassar and the court and the judge, how much is the life of a little girl worth?
Wow.
How much is the life of any child worth? When we sit here and we talk about these gun lobbyists and, the right to bear arms, and we're saying, well, I have the right to own all these guns.
Yeah.
How many guns is enough? When you walk into somebody's house, well, I'm a gun collector.
Yeah.
Okay, that means that you sue them. Unless they're antique guns, that means you're not a gun collector. That
Yeah.
means you're a gun hoarder.
Yeah.
And so you have these weapons around. And, you'll have a lot of kids say, well, my dad has a gun in the house. And they feel safer.
Yeah.
They may. But Dad's not walking around the house with an AR-15.
Nope.
He's not. He may have a pistol, a shotgun.
Yeah.
But he's not walking around the house with an AR-15.
No.
So civility has to come to the forefront of everybody's mind.
Yep.
When you're looking at things, if you go to a sporting event and they're scanning people to get in now.
Yeah.
You got to walk the metal detector. They got the wands where they're waving, checking on people. So many events that you go to, you have to go through this protection.
Yep.
And so you're saying that you'll protect the athletes and you'll protect the fans in an arena or a stadium, but you won't protect the kids in a school. I mean, how expensive is it? I mean, we got so many cutbacks. You think about the president talking about training and arming several people in each school, okay?
That's horrible.
How much would a metal detector cost, in comparison to that training? That metal detector works every day. It's in the same place.
Yeah.
You have to go through it to get into the campus.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
I feel safer with the metal detector. Don't worry about spending, tens of thousands of dollars training people that may not be able to respond.
Yeah.
But that metal detector stops anything before anything has to happen.
Yeah.
And you have a lockdown of the school afterwards. After the kids enter, there's a lockdown. And the only way in and out is through the metal detector.
Yeah.
It may take a little longer for school to start, but I would rather that school takes a little longer to start and instead of having a parent not have a child come home late in the afternoon.
That's a very good point, and I'm glad that people are just having that conversation no matter whether you're Democrat or Republican, you notice those children that marched, and again, they love sports too. But what's the last sporting event to gather 800,000 people at an event? None that I can recall. And when you
I don't even think the inauguration, the last presidential inauguration had that many people.
Oh, of course not. And so the young people are onto something, and I hope that as they're watching sports and they're not, I'm so proud of the owner for the Sacramento Kings to look in the face of some of the people who are even in Northern California that are so ignorant.
But think of this one thing, Charlton. How long did they have to plan for the presidential inauguration? I mean, you elected in November. The inauguration is in, February?
Yeah.
Okay. This event was done in a week.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
They got 800,000 people together in a week.
Yeah.
The last presidential inauguration couldn't get that many people together in 3 months.
He was sworn in on the 20th. And you understand, it's like everybody knows the young people are the key to what happens in this society. And they're not just playing sports, they're doing everything else. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and that boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer leagues, when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you at 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. So again, with all the things that happened in March Madness, and I'm sure that March Madness was wonderful. There's been some great games. Seeing that Duke and seeing that Kansas game go down to the wire, and Duke having a chance to win it, and then going into overtime, and Kansas finding a way to actually pull out the win. And in fact, not only did they pull out the win, Big C, it really shows that as another small market program, Lawrence, Kansas, not beating up on Duke, but advancing to the Final Four. And there's so many stories. We got Michigan, we got Villanova, we have Kansas, and then this Loyola program. And I'm just saying that everybody is from a large market except for Kansas. How has Self been able to do this? And they've been doing it for years, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you think about the Kansas program, Charlton, being in the NCAA tournament. This all goes all the way back to Wilt Chamberlain in the 50s.
Yeah.
This is a program and a city, Lawrence, Kansas, that for some reason have always been able to draw top-flight athletes. You think about when they won a national championship with Larry Brown and Danny Manning.
Yeah.
When they beat the favorite Oklahoma that year.
Yep.
And this is a program that is consistently drawing talent. I don't know what's, I think they might be thinking the Yellow Brick Road is out there or whatever.
That's where Dorothy lives, right? The Wizard of Oz.
People in Kansas have dogs, so you never know about the Yellow Brick Road, okay?
Oh, yeah, we love the Yellow Brick Road.
but when you think about them getting to the point of where they are,
yeah,
they've always been a top-flight program.
Yeah.
And that's, when you win, you have a tendency to keep bringing people in because they see that as a path to success.
Yeah.
But also one of the things you got to look at Kansas is the maturity of the program, Charlton.
Yeah.
You got a lot of players that are juniors and seniors on these programs. When you look at Kansas, you look at Loyola, and you even look at Villanova.
Yeah.
These are veteran teams, Charlton, that are in the tournament. And all these one-and-done schools, and I'm not knocking the young men because you should go out and seek income as soon as you can.
Exactly.
It's legal, okay?
Yep.
Because the stuff in college that you get, they say is illegal.
Yeah.
So go on out and get that job, get that NBA job, that European job.
Yeah.
Whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
But I like seeing the older players, Charlton, spending the time in college, being a junior, being a senior, having an opportunity to play this late in the year. Because you've worked so hard, you've sacrificed so much during your college years. And this is just great for basketball to show that, the older teams can win.
Yeah.
They don't all have NBA aspirations. That's the reason why they stay in college for 4 years. They would all like to play.
Yeah.
But you stay in college for 4 years for that reason, to have this type of opportunity, to have this life experience of playing in the tournament, which you can always look back and say, wow, I played in something that's magical.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a guy today and we were talking sports. He said, well, how do you know about sports? I said, well, I played.
Yeah.
He said, well, you played? I said, yeah. He said, well, so what does that mean? I said, I'm not a fan. I enjoy the games. I enjoy the athleticism. I enjoy the knowledge that I gain from it.
Yeah.
I said, but I don't live vicariously through sports. I said, I'd love to talk about it, but life is more than that. And I hope so many of these young men will get that gets that college education.
Yep.
But they understand that, if I get fortunate enough to play a professional game, I'm blessed. But if I don't, I've spent enough time in college to get my degree, and now I can go out in the mainstream society and be a success there for the next 25 to 30 years.
Yeah, that's a part of what we've always talked about. Never just shut up and dribble. That mentality, if you hear that mentality, and if you even read a little bit, that's what was always told to black Americans. Imagine what Rosa Parks was told when she refused to give up her seat to a Caucasian man when the law made that illegal. The law was anathema to black Americans. And for that young, beautiful woman to stand up and say, I'm going to do what's right. And we know Dr. King talked about the arc of justice is long, but it bends towards justice. And to see so many young people, even at that march, they had the picture of Dr. King. Because I'm sure Dr. King saw a lot of sporting events too. He knew and met many great athletes back in the day. But he also was not going to end there, and he went on to do things that made their lives better. So when you have people that have a degree, or even if they're just around the higher education, that's what college offers a lot of people. And even if you don't go to college, there's people you could continue learning. But the fact that so many people can use that education to be more than just a person that plays sports, I'm very impressed by that. Big C, speaking of the sports world, I know that in this world of basketball, and we talk so much about what the men are doing and how we are really amped up and excited about the Final Four. I don't know who would be the winner. I think last time Loyola was there, I think it was 1963. And then, they've been just a marginal program, but they have this nun. I don't know if she's a nun, but they're praying mother, I guess. She prays for all the players, Big C, right? So I'm just impressed by that story. But if they win it, it's going to give every young program hope, even though it's going to be hard to knock off a number 1 seed in Kansas, a number 1 seed in Villanova, and then we know how well Michigan has played. Is any hope for the younger programs, Big C? The fact that they can get in there, as long as they get a seed, they have a chance to knock off anybody, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Sister Jean is a young lady that you're speaking about, is Loyola, who's been such an inspiration and been with that program for so many years, Charlton, and to have at this late stage in her life an opportunity for this program once again to rise to new heights. But you got to think about it. There's been 4 number 11 seeds that have reached the Final Four.
Yeah.
None have ever won the title, Charlton.
Yeah.
So, that's a huge uphill battle to climb. The last one was George Mason to make it back in 2006.
Yeah.
But Loyola has captured the hearts of so many people around this country, Charlton. So, anybody can win.
Yep.
And that's what they've done. I mean, they've gone out and beat top-flight programs, but no one gave them a chance to win a game, Charlton.
Yeah.
But they've won basketball the old-fashioned way, through teamwork.
Yep.
This is a very unselfish program when you look at the players on the court. And we talk about the senior and junior leadership. That's what Loyola personifies.
Yeah.
Is that they have players that have worked these angles and these scenarios for 3 and 4 years together.
Yeah.
And so now that they've gotten an opportunity to get on this grand stage, I don't know why people should be awestruck that they're there.
Yeah.
These are young men that have put in countless hours of practice and game time for this shining moment.
Yeah.
And the beacon is there for them.
Yep.
And if they go on and win this whole tournament, Charlton, they're still the underdog. In every game they've been in, they've been the underdog.
Yeah.
But if they go on and win this tournament, what does that say to the NCAA? Here's an organization that's been shrouded in scandal forever.
Yep.
And even came mainly to the forefront front this year with the FBI investigating.
Yeah.
But a program like Loyola, who is not a big budget program, no one even knew that they existed really in those sports.
Yeah.
But if they come out and win this magical tournament, Charlton, that is that red herring for college basketball to say, all this money that's spent, on these programs, on these sponsorships, and yet you have this small program that's sitting in an inner city.
Yeah.
And they come out and win, and we never even saw them on TV prior to the tournament.
Yep. You think about, I think 1963 was their first foray into March Madness and the tournaments, and it wasn't even African Americans didn't even have the right to vote the first time they were in the tournament, and so many what they call the blue blood programs, as you call these marquee programs, and the ones that have all the money and the TV revenue and everything that pours into it. Just proud to see a program like that battling some of the bigger programs that have all the funding and all the TV notoriety. I do want to take the chance to cross the board and look at the 2018 NCAA Division I women's basketball tournament, and a lot of times it goes under the radar as well. But we have UConn, which everybody knows UConn's a dominant program, and they're going to be playing South Carolina. UConn knocked off Duke, and South Carolina's knocked off Buffalo. And I just look at how they play again tonight. And also, when you look at, that's the bracket in Albany, New York. In the Spokane, Washington bracket, you have Notre Dame and Oregon. Notre Dame's knocked off Texas A&M, and Oregon's knocked off Central Michigan. But before we even touch on that, I look at what happened over the weekend. Mississippi State, a number 1 seed, they knocked off NC State, and then they knocked off UCLA, which was a number 3 seed. They beat them 89-73, a 16-point win. And that's in Kansas City, Missouri. Over in Kentucky, in the Lexington bracket, Louisville knocked off Stanford 86-59. And then Oregon State beat Baylor 72-67. But Louisville blew out Oregon 76-43. They're number 1 seed no matter who gets where. Do you see them giving having a chance to knock off Mississippi State? Or, UConn's probably going to win it. But it's nice to see them get challenged by somebody, Big C, where they're not winning all their games by 20, 30, and 30 points. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it is to a degree. You have to look at dominance in sports, and we've had it in all eras and in all sports. The teams just go out and dominate their opponent. And there's a reason why teams dominate their opponents like UConn.
Yeah.
Because you have that special intangible that you won't accept mediocrity, okay? That's the biggest part. So when I see a team go out, it's like when people talk about the Patriots in the NFL. And they say, wow, they've been there so much it's not exciting anymore. And I'm trying to figure out the last Super Bowl that wasn't a sellout, okay? I got to go back to 1967 with the Raiders and the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
That's the last Super Bowl that wasn't a sellout, okay?
Yeah.
Every one that the Patriots been in is a sellout, and every game that the Patriots play in the regular season is a sellout.
Yeah.
Just like with the UConn women. Every program has the same opportunity at the start of the season as the UConn women do, Charles.
Yeah.
But there's that some special intangible that Coach Auriemma brings to the program. Love him or hate him, is that he's the consummate professional coach.
Yeah.
Is what he is. And he finds a way to get the best out of the young ladies that play in his program. And we don't have the one and dones on the ladies' side like we do have the men.
No.
We have people that are there and they develop this camaraderie of trust and belief in each other.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that has left sports in the last decade or two, is camaraderie and belief because of free agents and all these transfers.
Yep.
Going from one program to another. You don't have, you think about the Steelers in the 70s. This was an organization that was built through the draft, and you watch guys retire as Steelers.
Yeah.
They weren't leaving in free agency going elsewhere, even though it didn't exist at the time.
Yeah.
But they were, they kept players in their organization. And they had camaraderie, they had trust. That's the reason why you win 4 Super Bowls in 5 years.
Yeah.
Because of that. The belief, the you knew the person working next to you.
Yep.
You get that in UConn. When you're recruited at UConn, you can never walk into that program saying, I'm going to be the greatest player ever.
No.
Because you walk in there saying, we hope we don't lose the streak to win the championship.
Yeah.
And so that humbleness makes players better. It makes them have a little more desire.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing you think about it, because in every program on the men's side, you know, there's so much hype about how good somebody is on these highlight shows.
Yeah.
That's all they talk about. Oh, yeah, he's one and done. He's going to be a top 3 draft pick. He's going to be the first overall draft pick.
Yeah.
That's all they talk about.
Yeah.
But when you're hyping a kid that's 19 years old and he's going to be the next great, and so how can he develop camaraderie with his fellow teammates? Because he's leaving. And everybody knows he's leaving. Everybody knows he's just spending a little time so he can go. And so that strong relationship bond never develops like you have on the female side, Charlton.
Yeah.
These ladies stay together for 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
When they're in a program. And so they're family. And that's something that you don't get often. I think about when they say family, and you go back to the Pittsburgh Pirates that were in the same era as the Steelers.
Yeah.
Winning championships. You know, they had a theme song by Sister Sledge, We Are Family.
Oh, yeah.
And that was their theme, We Are Family. And when you look at great sports teams over the eras, they were all like a family. When Bill Walsh was leading the 49ers,
Yep.
you saw the same faces all the time. Tom Landry leading the Dallas Cowboys. You saw the same faces. Don Shula leaving the Miami Dolphins.
Yep.
You saw the same faces. We saw that in the NBA with the Lakers. When they were winning championships.
The Buss family, yeah.
Pat Riley, Phil Jackson, it was family. The Bullets.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bulls.
Yeah.
You know, with Jackson, they were family. You know, you think about that, the Detroit Pistons with Chuck Daly.
Yeah.
It was a family. Eric Spoelstra in Miami. It was a family. So when you think about these organizations and these teams, when you spend time together bonding, that's the sign of greatness.
Yeah.
And you see that over and over. Every year in the NCAA tournament, you see a team that comes along, men and women's side.
Yeah.
When you look at that roster and say, wow, they got 5 players on the roster that's been here for 4 years.
Yeah.
5. You know, 3 of them are starting, 4 of them are starting. That's something special. And that's the thing that I hate our brethren broadcasters. They don't emphasize that. They don't emphasize, you know, they always talk about student athlete.
Yeah.
But they don't emphasize the importance of these guys who have grown up, these young ladies that have grown up together, how intelligent they've come in knowing each other.
Yeah, that's important. They stick together, and I look at how that always matters. It's not just about what you do in the game, it's about what happens after the fact also. I do want to touch on a few more things before we close today on a beautiful Monday. It was storming. I think it was raining so hard in California coming over the Sierra Summit. There was snow. You had to put on chains coming from the Tahoe region. Now today, it's about 75, 80 degrees. It's kind of hot in California, so Mother Nature's playing some tricks on people too. But I do want to just touch on another sport that you love the most, and that's the NFL. I look at what the Rams are doing. You know, we talk about what can the Rams do to attract more fans to get ready for that new stadium. Man, I thought the Raiders really missed it when they took their product from the Bay Area, and even though they're there for 2 more seasons where they're going to rob people for 2 years, imagine telling people you're going to rob them for the next 2 years of the money and then you're going to leave. That's what they're doing to the Raider fans, and going to go to Las Vegas. I look at what the Rams are doing down in Los Angeles. They just signed Ndamukong Suh, who was also going to go take a look at the Oakland Raiders. He had looked at the New York Jets, and I think about what they've done to their defensive line now. I know they have some great players. The secondary is strong now. Aqib Talib's going to really shore that up. Also, the gentleman they got from Kansas City, Marcus Peters, he's off the hook. And now you look at they have arguably the best defensive lineman in the game. Now they're going to bring in Ndamukong Suh, which at some point in time you're going to have to double team him. If he just has the right attitude and not having the dirty play stepping on players, they've just made their defensive line, I think, probably what Seattle used to be back in the day. Your thoughts on Ndamukong signing a 1-year, $14 million contract with the LA Rams, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, putting him beside Donald, you think about these two dominant defensive tackles in the NFL. How do you block them on the inside?
You can't.
These guys can just line up and play football. This is going to be a phenomenal group, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you look at the defense of the Rams, we saw the offensive firepower that they possessed last year. The growth of Jared Goff.
Yep.
Bringing in some receivers and offensive linemen to help him. Todd Gurley had a resurgence. And the only thing that they felt that they had a weakness in was on their defense.
Yeah.
Is that they had a problem covering teams. A lot of teams put up a lot of passing yards on them. So they go out and get two former all-pro corners.
Yeah.
That should help the team. And when you think about Talib, he's a guy who's played in Super Bowls.
Yep.
So he brings that winning mentality. Plus, he also played for Wade Phillips in Denver. You think about Marcus Peters. Wade Phillips played against him for years. In that same division, Western Division.
Yeah.
So he understands what this quarterback can do, who has been an all-pro himself.
Yep.
And then you bring in Ndamukong Suh. I think the best part of Ndamukong Suh is what we saw. You think about when the Cleveland Cavaliers made a trade right before the All-Star team. They brought in players that weren't used to winning, okay?
Yep.
All of a sudden, they were motivated and up-tempo. You think about Ndamukong Suh's NFL career.
Yep.
Where he played on a perennial winner. He had one winning season in Detroit where he made the playoffs. He had one season in Miami where he made the playoffs. But he never really had a team with a solid offense that, you could count on. And that's what the Rams has built.
Yeah.
And he was always looked at as the guy on defense. The defense, as he went, that's how that team's defense would go.
Yeah.
Now he doesn't have to come in and be the maestro.
Yeah.
He can come in and be a role player, and as you say, controlling his temper. I don't think he has a temper problem. I think he had a frustration problem.
Yeah.
Is that he was always being doubled.
Yeah.
And you look at the guy sitting next to you, so why aren't you making a sack if I'm being doubled?
Yeah.
Why aren't you making a tackle if I'm being doubled? And so that hurts a lot of players' mentality. That you're sitting there and your teammate, he's getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem that he's as dedicated as you.
Yeah.
By going to the Rams, an organization that's younger, you're hoping that he brings in a little more veteran leadership.
Yeah.
And he can adapt to the players around him. And he can be that next hurdle, that next cog to get them over the hurdle, Charlton. They need one more linebacker on that team.
Yeah.
They either draft or make a trade for a linebacker. The Rams have automatically won the West in the NFC.
Yeah, they look very dominant. And as they swing across the country, and I look at Odell Beckham, and I know with the mozzarella cheese and all that stuff, people do what they do. North Dallas 40, you want to really know what goes on in the world of pro athletes, watch North Dallas 40. I think that good old boy Nick Nolte told us that whether we believe it or not, that's real talk. That's reality. I mean, just watch the movie before you start saying, oh, I'm surprised that people like mozzarella cheese on their pizza, okay? But Odell Beckham says he won't even show up unless he has a new contract. And I know the Mara family, there's some good old boys saying, well, they don't win with him. They do win with him. He's the best receiver out there, at least on their team, and arguably in that division in the NFC East. Now, what you like about people or dislike about them on and off the field, let's be honest, a lot of people do things off the field that may not be what people like. For example, an owner that hides a guy who beats up his spouse 20 times. That's the Mara. That's what the Mara did. Do people dislike him? They haven't stopped him from managing and owning the Giants. So no matter what a player does, it wasn't spousal abuse, okay? I'm not making excuses for anybody that orders mozzarella cheese on their pizza. They do what they want to do. But for an owner to let some people come in and say, well, this guy's a distraction because he parties too much, the owner hit a spousal abuser, okay? I mean, what's more heinous than that? And people forgive them or they pretend it didn't happen? Long story short, do you sign Beckham, Big C, or do you let him search the waters and find greener pastures outside of the New York Giants organization? And I think he showed up more than Eli Manning, that's been the prodigal child for the New York Giants. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they're in a quandary right now because they don't want to make a black player more prestigious than Eli. That's the situation they're sitting at. Eli has struggled without Odell in the lineup. We saw that all last season.
Yep.
But he couldn't get the ball to anybody else. Odell made him look good for 3 years.
Yeah.
But now, the situation with Odell, it may be better that he did move on, Charlton.
Yeah.
And I can think of 3 great landing spots for him. New Orleans Saints, beautiful place to go.
Yep.
Oakland Raiders, not bad. Hollywood, we know how much he loves the limelight.
Yeah.
Now he works on his endorsements. The Rams would be a perfect fit for him. Even the San Diego Chargers, because they're there, Charlton.
Yeah.
So there's 4 places he could go. You got him out of the division. You don't have to see him maybe once a year, once every other year.
Yeah.
But, you would get something back for him. You can get a first-round draft pick. Even the Cleveland Browns would give you his number 1 overall pick for him.
Yeah.
And you would have the first and second picks in the draft.
Yeah.
If I'm the Giants, moving. Don't sit here and play this game and, we're not going to pay you. We're concerned about your social life.
Yeah.
You know what you've had the whole time.
Yep.
Odell has been Odell.
Yeah.
He has produced when he's on the field. And that's what bothers me so much about all the sports writers and sports broadcasters is that because they don't know how to enhance your experience of a player and a game, is that they want to dove into their social life.
Yep.
I can imagine if you look at all of their social lives, there's a whole lot of cobwebs and everything else you're going to find.
Donald Trump behavior.
Yeah,
Donald Trump behavior. Yep.
They think it's more important to talk about an athlete's social structure. If you're not getting arrested, you're not behind bars every month, why is it so important on how an athlete lives?
Yeah.
If he's not a criminal, because when Josh Brown, as you said, the punter for the Giants was beating up his ex-wife for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
21 police calls to the house with domestic disturbance. The Mara family said, hey, we won't let anybody know what's going on.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
We'll just give you a new contract. We'll increase your salary $1.5 million.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They said nothing negative, and they still, even after it came out, they didn't say anything negative about it.
No.
They knew this. They encouraged him to keep beating his ex-wife.
Yeah.
And yet they want to pay pillars now of society and saying, we're not going to stand for Odell's actions, and he's touchable now. We'll trade him.
Yeah.
But they never said that about Josh Brown when he was beating up his ex-wife.
Nope.
So you look at the treatment of players when we talk about injustice in society, what Colin Kaepernick stood for.
Yeah.
We talk about what Dr. King stood for, equality. Equality does not exist for African Americans even in sports, because there's always mainstream white media who is trying to tear them down regardless of what they do. You're good as long as you got that jersey on.
Yeah.
But when you don't have that jersey on it and you're not, playing the game, we're looking for something negative about you.
Yeah.
We're not telling the good stories because we don't hear the great stories about LeBron. We hear, hey, just shut up and dribble the basketball, okay?
Yeah.
Fox would never sit up and cover the academy that he does. They wouldn't sit up and cover the scholarship foundation that he has created for so many young African American and minority children.
Yep.
They don't go around and talk about the black athletes in this positive light because they say, hey, these are people are normal human beings.
Yeah.
They don't want mainstream society, and I don't care what channel you look at,
Yeah.
to resonate about what black athletes do to benefit so many others. They always say, well, we got to call upon the black athletes to do more in their community.
Yeah.
The ones that are doing it, they never show it because then all of a sudden they can't come out and act like they're not participating.
Yeah.
But I would beg them, all these broadcasters, to go out and do what these athletes do.
Yeah.
To go out and participate in the community like these athletes. Oh, you don't want to be out there without your makeup on. I understand.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let me just bring this up. There are also some of our black brethren in media that say, well, I understand the owner's point of view. You don't want people taking a stand on what it takes to keep black families safe, even though some of them are black themselves. Maybe like David Chappelle had a skit one time. The guy forgot he was black because they were paying him so much money. So they thought that some of the things that were affected and discovered by the Kerner Commission did not affect them because they were paying so much money to just be dumb. So I still hear some of our black brethren say, well, I can understand the owner's point of view. Who wants to bring an end to discrimination in Jim Crow in media? Who wants to bring an end to the police brutality? Who wants to bring attention to the inadequacy of the criminal justice system because they get paid so much money to shut up and just shut up and dribble or shut up and read that teleprompter, okay? So that's why I'm proud of what the Sacramento Kings did and the Boston Celtics did in the face of all that injustice anathema. There's some people don't want there to be justice, okay? They like it when they can feel like my society is treating me better than yours is treating you. And there are even some black Americans who are sycophants and they tacitly consent to what's going on, even though their own children are being brutalized. But Vivek Ranadive and the Sacramento Kings, they had a shirt saying accountability, we are one. Now, what person doesn't want a better life for their children? So when a broadcaster says, I can understand the owners, they don't want to bring attention to that, what owner would not want the safety of his players' children? They don't all wear jerseys, and they don't all have contracts. So enough of the dumb talk about, well, the owners don't want you to affect their bottom line. Well, what about caring about the people that work for you? That's more important than you making an extra dollar. And if you're going to appeal to people who come to your games and they're not going to come because you stand for equality, then why the hell you want those fans in the first place? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I go back to Jerry Richards, the owner of the Houston Texans, and saying that he hopes that these allegations against, the owner of the Panthers.
Yeah, Jerry Richardson.
I mean, Bob McNair, the owner of the Texans versus and Jerry Richardson.
Yeah.
Where McNair is saying he hopes that these allegations are not true, even though half the words were spoken out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It meant that this is what I do also.
Yeah.
Okay? This is what I do also, so why are you going after my friend?
Yep.
This is how we've acted forever because we've been men of power, and we can make denigrating statements to females and minorities. And who's going to stop us? Because we got that FU money, okay?
Yeah.
That's their mindset.
Yeah.
And so why now, because of political correctness and unease in society and now becoming zero tolerance, are we targeted?
Yeah.
Well, we've done this for 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
And it's been okay. Why now do we have to change? They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And these old dogs don't want to stop the tricks they're doing to people.
Yeah, that's funny, Big C.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
And so maybe someone needs to investigate him also, Charlton.
Yep.
When you think about him making the statements, in behalf of Richardson, McNair needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
Because if he said he's not going to allow players to make a social stance because they work for him,
yeah,
and they don't have the right to protest. And I wish that America would stop this dumbfounded idea saying they're protesting against the flag. At no point, and they've all announced, this is not against the flag.
Amen.
The person who makes that statement is the racist, okay?
Yeah.
When you say that these athletes are protesting the flag and protesting against the military, you are a racist because you don't want to stand up and say the truth. You don't want to say that there's social injustice, that there's an unfair treatment against blacks and minorities in America versus me because I'm white. So they're protesting against something. Now, most of these blacks that are playing, that have professional athletes, Charlton,
yeah,
probably about 65% of them have someone in their family in the military.
Yeah.
Okay? Think about that. About 65% of them, and so that means that more black athletes and white athletes have somebody in the military in their family.
Yeah.
And so that's not protesting against the flag. It is not. Because you have family members. You've had fathers, you've had uncles, you've had aunts, you've had cousins and brothers that are in the military.
Yep.
And you're going to say, okay, they're protesting against the military. You have fathers and brothers that are in law enforcement. They're not protesting against those things. They're protesting against a social injustice.
Yeah.
The racial divide in the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
That's what they were taking a stance in. But you're so ignorant that you won't tell the truth, so you tell a lie of racism.
Yeah. And we know this country is the greatest country out there. And it's great where the flag is flown over the land of the free and the home of the brave. We could be Russia. We could be China. We could be so many other places that discourage people from being intelligent and speaking out against anything that's oppressing them. So I love our country. I'm especially excited for the young generation, the ones who are not sycophants. They don't have this adversity to the truth. Like we say, Google it. So many of our young people have taken that to stand. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'm looking forward to getting some sleep after this last weekend of the Elite Eight and all that great college basketball going on. But I'm going to sit back and relax tonight. I'm going to watch the UConn women against the South Carolina women. I believe that UConn will just dominate that game, Charlton, from start to finish. They're such a great program.
Yeah. And
I'm looking for Coach Auriemma to go all the way and win another national championship.
Well, that man is incredible. And speaking of incredible, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America, and Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.